You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
Some news breaking yesterday that the Brisbane Broncos, Kurt Capewell, could be on the way to the Warriors with immediate effect. Not off contract until after next season, but the Warriors are keen to get their mitts on him early. Some pictures suggesting he was having a cuppa or a meal or something with Andrew Webster in the Auckland Viaduct to hammer it all out. Let's chat to Brad Walter, NRL.com senior reporter. Brad, welcome into the show. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good afternoon. How are you going?
Yeah, good, thank you. What's your reaction to this Kurt Capewell suggestion that he could be going to the Warriors?
Well, so the Warriors have made it clear that they won't release Adam Fanua-Blake unless they get a like-for-like replacement. And I suppose most people, probably including myself, initially thought, well, the clubs that are in for Adam Fanua-Blake probably don't have anyone to offer. But that player doesn't need to, I think the Warriors would be happy if they got a player of Capewell's calibre to replace, who would effectively come into the roster, not as a direct replacement, but who could come into the roster, and cover for Fanua-Blake, or in place of Fanua-Blake. So, if they were to sign a player of that calibre, then that may free the way for Adam Fanua-Blake to return to Sydney in 2025, or possibly sooner, I suppose, depending on how the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle land.
Can you imagine the Broncos being happy enough to release him? I mean, have they got salary cap pressures? What's in it for them getting him off their books early?
So look, Kurt Capewell went up there as a marquee signing with Adam Reynolds a couple of years ago. He's off contract at the end of the 2024 season. Since then, they've got a lot of. Obviously, they had a great season last season, and they've got a lot of young players who are in demand from other clubs who are also coming off contract and whose contracts are going to be needed to be upgraded. Specifically Ezra Mam and no doubt Reece Walsh will be in very, very high demand whenever he's off contract next. So the Broncos are going to need to make sure they've got some money for him. And as I said, Ezra Mam, I'm not sure how long Reynolds will be able to keep going for, but they're going to need to start planning for his eventual retirement or departure as well. So I think basically, the Broncos they're going to need some money and some room in their salary cap, and if Capewell was to leave, that would obviously help them out in that area.
How much do you think Andrew Webster and the way he coached this year and perhaps his previous relationship with Kurt Capewell at the Panthers played into this?
Well, look, I reckon any player would look at the Warriors, the way they played, the success they had this season, the support that they received in New Zealand. I reckon any player would be keen to play for the Warriors if the deal was right and the opportunity was right for them. Kurt Capewell's got a relationship as well with Andrew Webster from their time together at Penrith. I'm sure that Andrew Webster would be able to I'm sure he'd be keen to play again under Andrew Webster. I think it's an exciting time for the Warriors. That, as I said, they had a great season last year. Hopefully they can build on that this year. And if potentially they can bring Capewell into the squad, retain Adam Fanua-Blake, retain the players that they've got. Currently, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is back. Chanel Harris-Tavita's back. It's pretty exciting. Like the depth, you think this year could be better than last year.
It is indeed when you throw those names in the mix. Adam Fanua-Blake, obviously, some suggestion he'll go in 2025, or a big suggestion he'll go in 2025. Are virtually all the Sydney clubs circling on him at this point in time?
Well, certainly the obvious candidates are the Dragons, where he played, where he began his career, and who at this stage basically haven't signed anyone for 2024 and are really focused on getting a few big names in 2025, and I think a forward leader like Adam Fanua-Blake would be he's the type of player that they want to sign, that they need to sign. The Bulldogs, likewise, they're looking for a front rower of Adam's calibre and his experience and leadership. And the West Tigers, I think leadership and experience is something that they would really benefit from, and so they're the three clubs that are in the mix. But make no doubt that there's other clubs circling as well. He's arguably if he's not the best front rower in the game, he's in the top three at the moment. So like every Sydney club would be chasing him, would be like looking at whether they can afford him. Sydney Roosters are another club that's been mentioned. Jared Waerea-Hargreaves has got, he's on a 1-year contract there. So Adnan would be a great replacement for him in 2025. So as I said, he'll have every Sydney club lining up for his signature, and it's just a matter of who can afford him, who can fit him in. But those three clubs, the Bulldogs, the Dragons, and the West Tigers, they'd be absolutely desperate for his services.
And other league news as well. Michael Maguire standing down as Kiwis coach late Friday afternoon. Hasn't been announced yet, but he's going to go coach New South Wales Origin. Kiwis, the NZRL board, basically forcing his hand and forcing him to make that decision because they couldn't allow him to do both. It sounds like New South Wales weren't against him doing both, Brad.
Yeah, that's my understanding, that they were happy for him to coach both teams. State of Origin's in the middle of the season. The international rugby league's at the end of the season. So in terms of his actual ability to be able to do both jobs, there's no real issue there. I find the decision by the New Zealand Rugby League it's sort of hard to understand. Michael Maguire's just come off, leading New Zealand to their greatest ever victory against Australia, 30-0. Like a month ago, or even less, a couple of weeks ago. He's done a great job in rebuilding the Kiwis. He took over after they were eliminated in the quarterfinals of the 2017 World Cup. He's done a great job of rebuilding the Kiwis. They were missing a lot of key players in the Pacific Championships as well. So the depth is there. Michael Maguire wanted to continue on in the role. I sort of feel like it's the type of decision that you would make to justify getting rid of a coach because maybe you weren't happy with him for whatever reason, but to actually get a coach who's got the team effectively at their peak and hopefully heading into the World Cup in 2026, it's sort of hard to understand, especially when New South Wales Rugby League were happy for him to do the Origin job. But talk about him that he might be developing players for Australia. I mean, half the New South Wales team play for Samoa, so or other nations as well. So I don't know if that's I don't sort of see the two things that any sort of correlation between the two jobs or a conflict, But obviously they saw that. Hopefully they're going to appoint a Kiwi coach. That'd be my thing. Like they've got to make sure that they get a coach who can now build on what Michael Maguire's achieved, and whether that's, I'm not sure, Stacey Jones or Nathan Kalis or Benji Marshall even, but hopefully that coach is someone, who is a Kiwi now. I think it's, as I said, Michael's been doing the job since 2018, and it's probably time now that we had a Kiwi back in charge of the Kiwis again.
Indeed, yeah, I think that might be the way they're heading. Brad, appreciate your time with us on News Talk ZB this afternoon. Great to catch up and talk all goings-on in the world of rugby league. Thanks for yours.
Yeah, no worries. Have a good day.
That is Brad Walter joining us on News Talk ZB, NRL.com senior reporter. You can read all his stories there around rugby league. And as I said, I think before 2 o'clock, it never stops, does it, rugby league? There's always stories going on in rugby league. November, December, whenever it might be in the year, there's always a rugby league story bubbling away. It'd be fascinating to see whether Kurt Capewell lands at the Warriors come season 2024, maybe 2025. If the Broncos need to balance the books, they might be able to release Kurt Capewell early to the Warriors. Text in from Lee on the basis of that chat about Kurt Capewell and also Adam Fanua-Blake. Lee says this, Elliott, this is the issue in any sports. No tight employment contracts. There's too much competition out there, so unless performance is an issue, that should be the only out clause. We've seen that quite a lot, haven't we, in rugby league, especially a lot of contracts broken or terminated early, players switching clubs, they sign for a certain length period, and then they decide that it's not working for them, or they want to go home, or they want a change of lifestyle. And at that point, most of the time, the club themselves that they're currently employed by doesn't really have, when they've got a legal ground to stand on, legal league to stand on, but then you've got an unhappy player, and is that conducive to a good team environment? So very much power is in the hands of the players in that regard. Thanks for the text, Lee.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.